And let's get rocking and rolling. In today's training, we'll be talking about the easiest government contracts to win in the federal market. So it's a good, fun title for me, and we'll dive into it. But really, a catalyst for me on why I chose this training is that too often small business government contractors really chase these opportunities that we're not going to win, right? They're out of our league. And not only when we chase these opportunities does it lead to potentially a loss, right? The government doesn't give us the contract, but it wastes precious time that we have that could be spent elsewhere, right? It could be spent on contracts that we can win. And that's really the purpose of today's conversation, is to give you some ideas around the easiest government contracts to win. Today's topic is going to be broken down into 4 main sections that I want to talk about. And these really align to how do I define the easiest government contracts to win. So the first thing I want to talk about is related to the acquisition approach the government uses. And so the first measurement of easiness factor, if you will, are the type of contracts, the acquisition approach that's taken. And then right behind that, the next thing I'll talk about is looking at the acquisition approach, the type of contracts, but from the scope, right? What is that type of work that's in that opportunity, or how is the scope in there? And then the third thing I'm going to talk about is moving into the selling. You can think capture on this, right? So how much time is available for selling? How much time do you have available to try to win that opportunity? The fourth thing, where we'll kind of wrap up here, is looking at the incumbent, whoever might have contracts or have these type of contracts, et cetera. What is the recipient type, right? And so I want to talk about that and help you understand that you can look at contracts that are coming out and see the recipient type, previous recipients or people who tend to win these kind of things, et cetera. I was going to do a live demo in FPDS to show you how I go in and just, put the filters and do this. But actually, FPDS is down at the moment, or, I was checking a few minutes ago and it was just not coming up. So I'm assuming it's down for the moment. I don't want to ruin it. This is a live training. But I've done other previous trainings on this. And if you follow what I'm saying, you can go into FPDS and do this yourself afterwards. So if this is what you're looking to learn, the easiest government contracts to win, just put GovCon Rocks in the chat. Let me know you're excited about today's training. If you're coming in a little bit later, make sure you put your company name and your core competency. Tell people who you are so that you can not only learn from me today, but you can connect with many others. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce and co-founder of GovCon in a Box. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. I know that's what you want for yourself, is predictable results, right? So that's why I do this training. I'm excited to do it. Don't forget about tomorrow's training. You can sign up for tomorrow's training. Today, we had over 350 people almost registered. Tomorrow, we've got well over 100 people already registered. And I'll be talking about the differences between a request for proposal and a request for quote, and a little bit about looking at them, what's the difference between them, and what's the difference between our responses to them. So if that's a training you're interested in, make sure you register. You can go find that on my LinkedIn profile to register. Last thing is sign up for the Government Contracting Success newsletter. This is our newsletter. We're almost at 20,000. We continue to grow in subscribers because we provide great content that helps you with your journey in the federal market as a government contractor. So sign up for that newsletter so you keep getting good information out there. One last thing before we dive completely into the training, I just wanted to congratulate the companies that are in the 100 Club. So govconinabox.com, if you go there, you will see that we provide you a federal visibility score for all small businesses out there. And there's over 360,000 of them. For all small businesses selling to the federal market, you can score 1 to 100 points on your visibility to federal buyers. That's why we call it a federal visibility score. I've been doing this since 2018. Now we've automated it. I'm super excited with my co-founders in GovCon in a Box, where we're automating a lot of the things I've been doing manually for years. And it's super exciting because it helps you figure out what do you need to do in your company to become more visible to federal buyers. It's completely free. Really, it's me providing you a scorecard and then guidance on what to do on the federal tools in order to increase your visibility. So go check it out. celebrate these companies in here. If you're in the 100 Club, put it in the chat. I'm in the 100 Club. That's always exciting for me to see, especially afterwards as I come back and I look at all the comments. And you can find that again at govconinabox.com. Okay, let's get started talking about, when you think about the easiest contracts to win, easiest government contracts to win, I want you to first think about the type of contract acquisition approach that's coming out. And I'm going to walk through several of these. If you're experienced, most of these will sound familiar, right? But it's the direction I'm talking about and going. I want you to think about this as you're filling your pipeline for FY 2025, which we're in now. If you want a spoiler alert, jump to the bottom. That's where my winner is for today on this slide. But really, when you think about the type of contracts you could pursue from an acquisition perspective, and these are in no particular order, but the first one might be pursuing opportunities that are contract vehicles, actually contract vehicles. They really won't result in any money. So think Oasis or Stars 3 when it was coming out, or Seaport Next Gen, or any of these vehicles going after a contract vehicle. That's one type of thing you might go after in your pipeline. Another thing are opportunities that come out as task orders on contract vehicles. And so it could be an opportunity that's on Seaport Next Gen, which is a Navy contract vehicle, or it come out as a task order on, or an opportunity on GSA Mass, which is GSA schedules, right, or contract vehicles. And so that's one way it could come out. Another type of contract are set-aside contracts. And these are contracts that are set aside to women-owned small businesses or 8A firms, for example. Another one might be similar to set-asides, but instead of competitive set-aside, now it's just sole source to one company, a direct award, if you will. This happens the most within the 8A small business program, where the government will take an opportunity and direct award it, or you might be trying for direct awards. While those are golden, those aren't the easiest, right? Those are awesome to get, but they're not the easiest ones to get. The last two are a little bit different, but I just want to kind of mention them this way. There's one called the other transaction authorities. And basically the way I describe it to myself is it's the anti-FAR opportunity. So most opportunities come out and they're covered by the FAR. The OTA are opportunities that are designed mostly for research and development, but that move at a pretty fast pace. And so they're not limited by a lot of the language that's in the FAR. But my point is that's an opportunity that comes out as like an OTA way of thinking about it, a type of contract, the acquisition approach on that. That's not an easiest one. It's a great one, right? But it's not easiest. And then the last one is simplified acquisition procedure. And basically this is a procedure the government has for buying from small businesses, opportunities typically under $250,000. And it's designed to minimize the paperwork, in particular for industry, partly to help the government, but really to help industry. It's streamlining that acquisition approach so that we don't need as much. And so that one is a winner. And I put that in the next one. You'll see a SAP at the end, at the very last bullet. And so the easiest type of contract to win from an acquisition approach, though, in my opinion, are standalone contracts, what are also known as open market. Basically, these are contracts or opportunities the government has out there that do not have a vehicle. So you don't need any type of contract vehicle to win it. I used to win a lot of these actually in my last company. And so they didn't require us to be on the GSA schedule or something else. It's okay if you're on a contract vehicle. I'm just saying the easiest ones to win are the ones with the least amount of friction, right? They're normal type contracts covered under the FAR, normal type set-asides, but they don't get tied to a contract vehicle. So think the acquisition side. And when you're looking at opportunities, you want to find ones that are open market or standalone and not tied to a particular contract vehicle where you can avoid it. And by the way, as I'm going through and I'm telling you these things, I am in no way suggesting not to go after the others. When I fill a pipeline, I'm going after a lot of them. But what I'm saying is, if I wanted to fill my pipeline with a bunch of the easiest contracts to win, this would be the criteria I would use, right? Standalone type contract. The next thing is I would want it to be recompete. And so here, when you think about the type of contract vehicle, you can think of it from the scope or whether this is, when I say scope, it's the requirements for this work, right? Are these new requirements the government has? Number one, are these requirements the government has had in the past and they have paid for, and now they're just recompeting it? For example, a contract is expiring tomorrow, so they're recompeting it today so that they can award it 2 days from now, right? Doesn't happen that fast, but that idea of a new opportunity, then you have recompete, meaning they've already purchased this before and they're going to purchase it again. And the last one that I just laid here is consolidated. Are they taking two opportunities that have already been awarded and bringing them together as one? And it's kind of a new one, but it's not really a new contract because it's got two existing ones. We know they want to recompete. They just don't want to recompete them individually anymore. They want to consolidate them and recompete them as one. Sometimes they might have a new set of requirements with an existing set of requirements and consolidate those requirements together. But the idea, most importantly, that I want you to take away from this slide is that when I look at an opportunity, I ask myself very quickly, and in fact, in my sales pipelines that we share with our customers, in our sales pipeline, one of the fields is this. I ask, is it a new opportunity, new requirements? Is it a recompete, meaning the requirements have been purchased before by the government, they just want to purchase it again, or is it consolidated? And so recompete is definitely the easiest one I want from scope. And the reason is because they've already defined the scope before. For the most part, that scope is going to be the same, right? Yes, there'll be some changes because it's been 1 to 5 years since the last time they purchased that requirement, right? And they put that opportunity out. So it's been, several years since then. There'll be some changes, but for the most part, if they're saying they want cybersecurity, they're just maturing what they want, but they still basically want cybersecurity. They still want facility maintenance. They might modify it a little bit, right? So recompete is really good from that perspective of the scope being pretty much the same. Because they have bought it before, I can go back and find previous documents like requirement documents, performance work statements, or statements of work, the SAL or the PWS, right? I can find that and begin to start looking at how our company can respond to that previous contract in preparation for the new contract, that recompeted contract, dropping and giving me the current requirement documents. And the last thing about the recompete is I can see how much they awarded the contract for. I don't know what the hourly rates are, things like that necessarily. I can find it out. But for the most part, I can see that they awarded, let's say, a 5-year contract to do this scope of work at this price. That's why recompete is so exciting for me. Really quickly, the reason new is something that actually is third place to me, right? The order I would do it is recompete, consolidated, new. I love new. I love the whole idea of going in there and trying to go after it. The problem with new contracts, new requirements for me is that twofold. One is the government often doesn't really know what they want. They haven't got their ducks in a row, right? And so even if they're kind of coming out or they're putting it out there and saying, hey, we really do want it, they're not often really settled on it because there's a lot of internal dialogue still trying to figure out what do we want, right? And that's a generalization, but generally, they're not totally locked down on what they want. And worse, new opportunities move to the right more often than not, right? If I use a made-up fact at the moment, 90% of new opportunities move to the right, meaning they just keep going. They say, hey, it's going to come out in October. And then it comes, well, we're going to move it to December. You know what? We're going to wait till after the holidays to come out in March. You know what? We're going to wait till 2027. It's like, what? It's like, it just keeps moving. Not all of them, but new opportunities more than recompeted opportunities move to the right. Recompeted opportunities, the contract's ending, and for the most part, we need a new contract in place. And so they operate that way. All right, so type of contract, the acquisition, the scope, and now, before I go on to now, hey, tomorrow or Monday the 14th, I'm doing another virtual networking event. We did one a couple of weeks back in end of September, and it was awesome. A ton of people registered, a ton of people attended. Everybody had positive feedback. A lot of people were meeting. A lot of people had meetings. It was a Monday event, and so they had meetings through the week with the people they met. It was awesome. And so I want you to make sure you go register for the next one we're doing, October 14th. You can find it here on LinkedIn on my profile. Maybe somebody will put this link in here, GovConInABox/networking. We just created that page so you could go there, hit a button, and go to LinkedIn and register. because the URL on LinkedIn is crazy, but here it's easy. So govconintobox.com/networking. If you go there really quick and register, it literally will take you 15 seconds. But make sure you come. I have 34,000 connections in the GovCon space mostly, and I'm trying to bring them into networking events that you all can meet each other and you don't have to go through me. Okay, so let me continue on. So the next thing, we talked about type of contracts, acquisition, scope. The next thing I want you to pay attention to is how much time do you have to sell, right? And this is a big deal because when you think about a contract and the relationship with the buyer, you need to understand something about the buyer. You need to understand something about the work. You need to give yourself time to write a good response before the pressure is under you. So here, I'm laying out 4 main ways that you can look at the time available for selling. And you can also think of this as the time available for capture, if you use that term. So the first stage you might be at is, hey, we just see an opportunity, the RFP is posted, right? That means you have 0 time for selling. Not that proposal isn't selling, right? But there's no dialogue. So you have 0 time for selling. And so, that one is not that good as another one I will tell you, because you have no time to sell. You have no way to understand truly their pains, objectives, et cetera, because you never heard about that before the RFP dropped, right? I'm not saying, again, that you shouldn't go after any of these. You absolutely should make those decisions. But which one is the easiest government contract to win? It's not the one that the RFP drops. That's not the easiest one. It's certainly a good one, but it's not the easiest. The next one is if an RFI is dropped. So the government has taken a requirement they have, and they have moved it forward enough in their acquisition lifecycle that they have got into marketing research. And a marketing research phase drops a sources sought notice or an RFI, a request for information. They drop those out to industry to have discussions with industry. They want to talk to you about the scope of the work, perhaps. They want to talk to you about maybe the cost and the schedule, or most importantly, the other acquisition approach decisions. Should we set it aside to woman-owned small business, for example? And so if the RFI is dropped, but the RFP is not, then you have potentially a little longer to look at that. But the acquisition's kind of swimming already generally, right? Sometimes they drop an RFI and disappear. That's a whole different question. And then the third one is you hear about an opportunity and you see it in the long-range acquisition forecast. And so for this one, for those of you who do it, like right now, we're about to publish the long-range acquisition forecast directory. We've been publishing this year after year for free. Just put it out there. But it's a way for you to quickly get to agency long-range acquisition forecast. Any that we can find, go in the directory. And when you go in there and you see opportunities, it's great. And you see them. But the quality of the opportunities that are in the long-range acquisition forecast are suspect completely, right? I mean, I wish they were more reliable, but often you have people who are aligned to it. Their names are on it, that they don't want to talk to you, or they don't even relate to it. Other times there's things in the forecast that disappear. So there are good things in the forecast. It is a worthwhile pursuit to look at a long-range acquisition forecast and try to get opportunities in your pipeline, but it's not the easiest way. The easiest way, number 4, is to find expiring contracts that you wish you had won. That is the easiest way when you think about available contracts or the available time for selling, right? Which ones are the best ones to go after? You want contracts that are expiring, and not just expiring in any general period, but I'm trying to recommend even tighter that you're looking for contracts that are expiring in 6 to 12 months. If it is less than 6 months, then you're really shrinking your window. It's still fine, right? Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to not go after any of these. I'm saying which is the easiest. But it is far easier to go after an existing contract that's expiring that's about 6 to 12 months out, because 6 to 12 months out gives you more than enough time to get in to try to have meetings with program office people, contract office people, small business professionals who can maybe make introductions to industry partners who are in that agency you're trying to go into, et cetera. It gives you time, right? And when you think about a pipeline has 10 or 20 or 50 opportunities in it, you need to give yourself time to be able to work all of those, moving them forward. And so 6 to 12 months is a good kind of range. You know that opportunity is expiring in 6 to 12 months. The contract is dropping. Really, you could probably push this time out a little bit if you want. But more than 12 months, it's not the easiest from my perspective, because at that point, you're just going really far out and maybe people aren't ready to talk with you. Inside of 6 to 12 months, they know they're in the acquisition cycle, right? And the bigger the contract is, the farther out you have to go. But for the most part, small businesses looking to fill their pipeline with the easiest contracts can look at expiring contracts that are expiring in 6 to 12 months. If you find those ones that you wish you had won and put them into your pipeline to start pursuing, you'll find a lot more traction. The last one I think here that I wanted to talk about was the incumbent recipient type. And so what I mean by this is, if you're going to go out and look at expiring contracts, because I said you want to go after recompetes, expiring contracts, not new contracts, then there is an incumbent on there. And so what I'm recommending is you look at those incumbents. The incumbent can be a large contractor, right? A large prime contractor. You think Booz Allen or Lockheed Martin or somebody. It could be a large contract like that. It can be an Alaskan Native corporation. And I pull them out separately because even though they're in the 8A small business program, they're different. They really are. They have advantages that are different. And so you want to pay attention to that. The next one is Ability One. If you're not familiar with this, understand that. But if you see a contract that is expiring and the recipient was an Ability One company, then unless you're Ability One, your likelihood of having success there is really much, much lower than other paths, right? Your likelihood of winning a contract that a large has that contract is a lot slimmer than if you come down, right? And then number 4. So what I'm suggesting is you look at the small business tags, if you will. So I look at a recipient, and first thing I'm looking for is, are you a small business? Good. I'm a small business. You're a small business. So far, so good. And if there's no tags other than like women-owned or hubs-owned or something, then that's good. The recipient is just a total small, is what we call it. That means I have a shot to get in there and go after it. Number 5 is the one I'm saying is the easiest. If I look at an incumbent on a recompeted opportunity that's about to expire in 6 to 12 months, then I want to find ones that have the recipient that has the same tag. If it was a woman-owned small business, it doesn't matter what the set-aside was, right? That doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, was it awarded to a woman-owned small business? Well, now when I go in and talk to the KO, I don't have to convince them that women-owned small businesses like mine are good, because they already believe it. They awarded it to the incumbent, right? And so finding that similar tag, I'm suggesting, is the easiest. And then obviously small businesses that are not our tag, like if I'm not an SDDO, but the small business who won it is, that's not one of the easiest ones to go after. It doesn't mean I won't ever go after it, but it just means it's not the easiest. Okay, let's just recap really quick on the easiest contracts to win, the criteria that I'm describing, with the caveat that I'm not saying don't go after anything else. I'm just saying, if I was going to help you right now go fill your pipeline with 3 or 4 opportunities that you could be working on to win in early 2025, the calendar year, then this is what I would do. I would look for open market or standalone type contracts, so contracts that weren't on a vehicle. Just as a small aside, if they're contracts that are on my vehicle, I would put that at that same level of number 1. The second thing is I would look for contracts that were smaller, simplified acquisition procedure. Sometimes those simplified acquisition procedures are on contracts that are much larger in size than the 250,000 I mentioned, right? There's a threshold of 250,000 for theoretically what must go small, but the range of what they spend goes higher. And you can learn this in FPDS. You don't have to look anywhere else. You just see how they're doing it. The third one is look for something that is expiring, right? The recompete. The fourth one, it should expire in 6 to 12 months, right? It doesn't mean don't look at the ones before 6 months or after 12 months, but find the ones first that are expiring in 6 to 12 months that you wish you had won, and that the recipient, the incumbent, has the same tags as you. When you look at that criteria, then you're really going to find opportunities that are the easiest ones to win in the federal market. Here's what I want you to remember, several things from today's training. The first thing is have a clear, focused offer. Before you do any research in SAM or FPDS or any of these other things, you have to know what you sell and tighten it down. If you're under $5 million, you should sell one thing, and you should be the best at it. You can kind of expand a teeny bit, but that expansion should be related to that one thing. Second thing to do is with that clear, focused offer, go into fpds.gov and search based on that criteria I just said. They have a help manual in there that you can read. It'll show you which fields to use if you're not familiar. You can also watch previous training where I teach you how to use FPDS. It's all free. It's all here on LinkedIn. And then the last thing is populate your sales pipeline with 3 or 4 opportunities that look like the easiest ones to win that are in your what you wish you had won, because you're like, hey, this is slam dunk for us. When you do that, you're going to line yourself up to be able to fill your pipeline with some of the easiest contracts for your company to win in the federal market. Just as a reminder, go right now and register for networking. By the way, if you appreciate the fact that we help you have these free networking opportunities, put networking rocks on your way out of today's training. Networking rocks. Just let us know. But go to the govconinabox.com/networking, and you'll find a link to go to LinkedIn to register. Otherwise, just be on my profile. You should have saw it already. If you're doing 2 million plus and you've watched 7 videos of mine or more, then we'd be happy to talk to you about our workshop. It's a BD Accelerator workshop that moves forward. If you're not doing that, don't reach out. I do this free training for you. I do all sorts of stuff for companies that are under that realm. And for the rest of us, as we move forward, just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's a process. And part of the process is ending on time. Looks like I'm doing that. Networking rocks in the chat. If you were happy with today's training and you're looking forward to the networking, I will see you in the next training.